Hi everyone, I'm Troy Lambert, mystery and thriller author and the education lead at Plottr, and today we're going to talk about Dan Harmon's Story Circle. Now, writer and director Dan Harmon, best known for his work on Community and Rick and Morty, studied the classic Joseph Campbell plot structure of the hero's journey. It lays out each of the fundamental parts of a story, but he adapted. He whittled the steps down to 8 distinct parts. The Dan Harmon Story Circle is sometimes called the story embryo or the plot embryo, and this is because of its simplicity. These 8 steps follow a character's pursuit of a goal outside their normal world. You, need, go, search, find, take, return, and change are those steps. It's a circle because the protagonist returns to where they started. This is a plot arc, but it's very character-focused. After traveling through the 3 acts of the story, the hero's inevitable return finds them changed. And this is true whether or not they have achieved their goal. So this can be used for a tragedy or a comedy. Now, who might want to use this story structure? Well, if you're a discovery writer, this can be a great place to start. It's very simple and has a few easy steps to follow. Also, if you'd like to write character-driven stories and have a story where the hero returns to the ordinary world at the end, the story circle may be the right choice for you. It's very simple to use and similar to both the hero's journey and Save the Cat, but much less complicated. Now, it's arranged in 3 acts, just like those story structures, and so it can be adapted to work with a variety of genres and types of stories. With that, let's take a deep dive into Dan Harmon's Story Circle. We are going to start with Act 1, the setup, and with you. You is essentially an introduction to our hero in a place of comfort. We see their ordinary world, and the audience is introduced to a sympathetic character, someone they can relate to and identify with. This is who we're going to follow through the rest of the story. That leads us to need. Now, need is the section that shows us what is wrong with the ordinary world and the need that drives the protagonist or hero to go deal with whatever problem they're facing. This section includes the inciting incident, which is the event that propels our hero into the story and onto their journey. Now, this need can be external or internal, but it has to be something big, something that would pull them out of their place of comfort. This brings us to Act 2, the confrontation. The hero is now in motion, and we see the core conflict of the story revealed. The tension and stakes increase as we discover that while they're uncomfortable in their new role and the new world, our hero is adapting, even if things are not going super well or according to plan, which often at this point, they're not. That leads us to search. Our hero is now adapting to the new world and also must adapt to change. Because of that, things are going to get more complicated, and new problems and potential solutions lead us towards the climax of the story. Find creates a turning point for our protagonist, because they find what they wanted or what they thought they wanted, and they achieve a brief moment of victory. But what once appeared as a clear and direct solution soon is revealed not to be, and their situation descends into something much more daunting and dangerous. Which leads us to take. This is often where the protagonist's wants and needs collide. The protagonist takes what they want or receives what they want, but to do so, they pay a steep price. That price creates new needs that push them to the brink. The protagonist is at their lowest at this point, and all seems lost. It seems like they are not going to achieve victory. This leads to the climax where they face their toughest conflict yet. The stakes and tension are at their very highest point in the plot. Return is where the protagonist returns to their normal world with whatever they found or took, along with a new perspective, which leads to new wants and needs. This passage back into the normal world mirrors their passage into the unfamiliar world in the go step. It's a return to familiarity but with a new perspective and new abilities. Those things mean that they have to take action. And that is what they do when they change. The protagonist has undergone a transformation, and they use their new abilities, knowledge, perspective, or perhaps an item that they found to vanquish the villain or achieve their goal. The reader must see this change, often illustrated by a final showdown. This is a resolution of the story and the end. If a series, there can be a hint of what might be coming next in this section. And a note here, if this is a tragedy, things may have ended poorly for our protagonist. Let's look at the story circle structure in action. And to do that, let's look at the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex. It was written by the great dramatist Sophocles a really long time ago. Aristotle found it a favorite, and since it's also a bit of a murder mystery, it's kind of one of my favorites too. So let's dive right in and have a look at how the story circle actually works. We're going to start with Act 1, the setup, and the first beat, you. We're going to meet our protagonist, Oedipus. He's the revered king of the ancient Greek city of Thebes. He left his birthplace in Corinth and came there to escape a prophecy that said that he would kill his father and marry his mother. He's a strong leader and beloved for saving the city from the Sphinx when he first arrived, after the death of King Laius. Now, Oedipus rules Thebes alongside his wife Jocasta, widow of Laius, and her brother Creon, who is happy to share in the power of rule, but without the necessity of the title of king. What does Oedipus need? Well, a mysterious plague has settled over the city, causing death and famine. He sends Creon to the oracle to learn what can be done. Creon returns to share the news that the plague will be lifted only after the murderer of Laius the king is discovered and driven from the land. The oracle also claims that the murderer is still living in Thebes. Well, because he needs to lift the plague, Oedipus invokes a curse upon the murderer. He says, may he wear out his life in misery to miserable doom. This, and the need to discover the individual who committed the murder, makes it essential for him to take action. And the first step is to go and learn more about the crime, like any good detective would. So he begins a search. He does this by commanding that everyone with knowledge of Laius' death must come forward. He promises no one's going to be punished no matter what they share, kind of a promise of amnesty or something like that. An old blind prophet tells Oedipus that he himself is the pollution in the land. You are the murderer, he says, of the kind whose murderer you seek. This rattles Oedipus, but he keeps going anyway. Jocasta and others share what they know about the king's murder. Some of the details differ from what Oedipus has heard before. He was supposedly killed at the intersection of 3 roads. From the description, it seems like a familiar place to Oedipus. One peasant in particular, a shepherd and a survivor of the attack that killed the king, seems to be the key to the truth. A search for him is undertaken. He's looking for his primary witness. Now, while waiting for the shepherd to be found, a messenger arrives with the sorry news that Oedipus' father, Polybus, has died a natural death. Oedipus is elated, actually, knowing that while some of the details of the king's death point to him as the killer, it can't be him, because his father has just passed away many miles away. Now, there's still the problem of the plague, but Oedipus takes satisfaction in knowing he has not fulfilled the prophecy told before his birth. But then take happens. The shepherd arrived with a story that differs in one key detail from the one recalled by Jocasta. It was not a band of robbers, but a single robber who struck the king dead. As the shepherd relates more details of the murder, Oedipus grows more concerned. He met a group of travelers at a crossroads, and one of them hit him. He killed them all as a result. At that moment, he realizes he is the one who killed the former king in retaliation for first being struck. This news is kind of tough to take, But Oedipus holds on to his assurance that he was justified in killing the king and that he certainly didn't kill his father. But not for long. The shepherd reveals that King Laius had a son. To keep the baby from growing up to fulfill the dire prophecy, Laius damaged the tendons in the baby's feet and instructed the shepherd to leave him to die on a mountain. But the shepherd couldn't do it and gave the baby to Polybus instead. Well, what does that mean for Oedipus? Well, he realizes he has not escaped the prophecy. Indeed, he has been returned to his fate by learning that he killed his father, because King Laius actually was his father. Jocasta is also horrified. She immediately knows that she is Oedipus' mother and rushes from the room, which leads us to the final change. It takes only moments for this to happen. Oedipus comprehends that he has married his mother. He goes to find her and discovers that she's hung herself. He uses the pins of her brooches to pierce his own eyes so they will never see the crime I have committed or had done upon me. Then he begs Creon to care for his young daughters. He knows his sons will find their way in the world and they'll be fine. But he insists on being treated as he had promised to treat the murderer. He will be cast out of Thebes to wander on his own. Now, with Oedipus and Jocasta's lives and happiness destroyed, the chorus ends the play by saying, "Count no mortal happy till he has passed the final limit of his life, secure from pain." In other words, happiness can only be found in death. You've probably seen this story structure used several times in movies and books, or perhaps you've used it yourself to define your own stories. Let us know about those things in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notifications bell so you don't ever miss an update.
And if you're not a Plottr user already, visit try.plottr.com/free trial to check it out for yourself today. We look forward to hearing what you think and seeing you in the Plottr community. Thanks everyone, and have a wonderful day.